Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm trying to use Alias to mark a static method. So as you can see here, we are using a service factory and calling the build method from the service factory. So first of all, let me tell you what is the code saying here, or what is the code doing here. So we have a payment controller and we have an add to wallet. So actually this is a method that when a request comes, it just get the information from the request and the payment name and charge the user for a specific amount, and then we will update the wallet of the user. That's it. This is a very simple thing. But we are using a service factory here, as you can see, and calling the build method. So what is the service factory? The service factory is actually uses the factory design pattern to create an instance of a class based on the payment name. So for example, if the payment name was X, we will create a new instance of class X, or if it was Y, then we will create a new instance of the class Y. So we will now dig into the build method to see how it works. As you can see, we are passing the class name or the payment service name, and then we will concatenate the service class plus the namespace that we will have our classes there. As you can see, this is an app services payment. So if you go to the app services payment, you can see we have two payment services here. One name is Adyen and the second one is a payment highway, and both of them are implementing this interface payment service. As you can see here, we have three methods, which two of them are very important: charge and refund. So the charge is for charging and refund is for refunding the money. As you can see here, we are concatenating this namespace with the service class, and then we are checking if the class exists too, and then create a new instance of that class. So the build method is here to only create a new instance of the class. So let's say we have the payment now, the payment class, and from the payment class, as I have already told you, we have a charge and refund. So we know that there is a charge method there. So we'll call the charge method and pass the argument, which is the token and the amount. And then from that response, we'll check if the status is 200, and then we update the wallet with the new amount. Okay, so what do I want to do in here is to use mockery to mark this static method. So we will go now to the unit test and create a new test class. I will call it payment test. We need to create a controller now first, and then into this controller I will create a new test class calling it payment test. Okay, now this payment test should extend the test case, and then our first scenario, we have only one test, I will say, and in this test we will start to write public function test add to wallet. Let me just zoom this a little bit. Yeah, so test add to wallet should call charge with specific arguments. All right. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is to create a new instance of the payment controller. So you say, hey, payment controller, and as you know, the payment controller accepts the user model, so we need to pass the user model to it. So say new user. Okay, and then we will call the add to wallet. Add to wallet method accepts two actually arguments: the payment name and the request. So the payment name, in this case, I will try to send the name of Adyen. And the request, which I will create it now, new request, and the request should contains two fields. The first field is the token and the second field is the amount. So I would say token could be random byte 120 bin to hex, and the amount should be in cents. I will say 1000 cents, which will be 10 euros or $10. So I will refactor this array and I will call it data here. So I will use this data to fulfill the request with it, and then pass the request here. So if I pass the request now, and if the code runs, then service factory will call the Alias class here. It's creating a new instance of the Alias, but I don't want to do this. I want to mark this build to return the instance of the class that I want, which is the mark class. So how we can do this? It's actually simple, not very hard, but I will explain now. So the first thing we want to do is to use mark, and we need to use alias. Alias keyword is used to mark the static methods, and the class is service factory. So we want to mark the service factory class and marked service, and we want to call the build method from this class with addian, because when we send addian here, where is it? Oh my god. Oh, here. When we send addian here, it will basically uppercase the first letter, as you can see in the code. You see first, so it's uppercase the first letter, so it will be addian with camel case, like addian. It will be something like this. So I'm expecting this addian, and in return I should return now an instance of a class. So the class could be a static class, or it could be a marked class. I would like to return a marked class here, so I will say mark payment class, mark. It could be anything. Mark, it will create only a simple mark class for you, mark object I mean. So the mark payment class, it should accept a charge method. So this is the payment that I'm returning here. So when the service factory call build, with addian, I should return a new instance of a class, and that class should call the charge method. So the payment method should receive the charge method with what? With this data, amount and token. So I'll pass them here. Data, token, data, amount, and return for when the payment call the charge, then it should return a response, and that response should contain a status. So the response should be an array, and it should contain, let me just clean this code a little bit, and return for me status, which the status should be 200. So I need to now pass this to the return of the build method. So when the code called service factory build with addian, then a new mark will return from that build. And when a new mark return from that build, the mark itself, we are supposed that the mark is as a payment services, like this payment services, which it is equal to them. So we are expecting that from the payment services, the code should call the charge method with this data and return a status 200. So this is the success. This is the success scenario, or the positive scenario, that we say everything works fine. So now if I run this, it should run successfully, but it is not running. Okay, sorry, it is not running. I mean, there is no assertion because we need to, PHPUnit will not count the should receive. I mean, it not counting the expectations as an assertion. So we need to modify the default behavior. We can say public function tear down, and in this tear down we need to actually get the container. So container mockery get container, this add to assertion count, container get expectation count, and then mockery close. Okay, now if we run it again, as you can see, we have two assertions. Okay, so data mocking payment service mocking service factory and the rest. Yep. So as you can see here, we have created our first test add to wallet should call charge with a specific argument, and as you can see here, yes, it is, we are calling charge with a specific argument. Now for example, if I change let me go to the code and I will change this amount to something else, like I don't know, let's say 300, it should throw an error, and it is throwing an error. So I would like to, okay, I would like to write one more test to see if I'm getting the response, the 200 success status from this. So I will duplicate this code here. Test add to wallet should return success if all goes well. Okay, so we will have all of this code again, but we can refactor it. Let's just not thinking about refactoring it now. Let's just let's refactor. Let's have a setup here, and public function setup, and into this setup I will say the data public data, sorry, private data, and then okay, I'll pass the data here, and then we have the data there. So also we need it here. No need for this. Yep. Okay, so now we have the data, we have refactored the data, but there is a lot of duplicate code here. We can also move this mock payment class, but I don't know really if we need to do it now or not. But let's just keep focus on what we want to do. So we are getting the response from the add to wallet, and the only thing that we need to test here is to assert equal 200 success to response get status cut. So now it should actually, yes, it works fine, all the tests get run and no problem. One more test, we can actually write tests for the negative scenario in here, which if, for example, if something goes wrong or the status was not 200 then we should receive an error. So test add to wallet should throw an error, if something goes wrong. So how this will gonna, okay, we can return, for example, here 500, and we have the mark service here, we have the other things here, so it will throw an error. So we should expect some, okay, we should expect an error, but how we need to expect an error? This expect exception, and the exception, but no, sorry, I thought it's an exception. So we need to assert this response with 502. Yes, it works fine. If we return 500 here, then this means that the payment call charge, which is the, when we run the test, the payment here is the mockery class that we are passing, that we are returning from the build. So this mockery, which is this mockery here, it called the charge here, and with this data, with this information, and return 500. So the response is the status, contains the status with 500. So it will not come here, it will return for us a 502. Okay, I hope you like this tutorial. The main reason of this tutorial was to tell you how you can use the alias to mock the static method, and how you can return a mockery class from the test when you are, I mean, this will be like a nested mocking here. So I will see you in the next tutorial, and thank you for watching.